Hello, I've got a progress update for you guys. It's been a while, so a bit of this information is old, but regardless, I thought I'd share my little journey with you all. After completing expert mode and doing the Easter event, I decided to try out Nightmare once again with my buddy and see where we land. We ended up hopping into a match and trying out a new map to see if we could do any better in something a little bit more unique than what we're used to. It had been a while since we actually played the game as well after the Easter event, and on the new map and all, we didn't really do all so well. We didn't fully give up, we decided to run it back, but choosing a different map. We were still struggling with a lot of the boss waves and stronger waves with tons of enemies on them, but we ended up getting far nonetheless. At the end of it, we ended up managing 37 total waves, and we ended up at this one spot where there were 2 bosses and a ton of enemies just flooding on through. The main scenario was the flood of enemies. We're not too sure how to deal with it other than DPS, and so that was a main component that we were lacking. Or crowd control, but I honestly believe that artillery can do a pretty good job usually. When it comes to alternative crowd control options, I'm somewhat lost upon the options. I would love to try out some other options like a helicopter, but I feel with this game mode it might be risky and I'm a little bit unfamiliar with the tower itself. But if you guys got any ideas, let me know down below. A few days later, I got a DM from one of you guys asking to play TDX sometime. Time zones were an issue, but eventually we got into a match of Nightmare together, and I didn't expect it, but their loadout was a bunch of summoners. I'm not too familiar with the summoners in this game, and a lot of them seem exclusive to the events they came from, so I didn't know how well they'd go. We ended up losing on the same wave, 37, but it was still very fun. It was unexpected, but a little bit later, we got an additional player to join in with us, and this is where things got chaotic. I've never gone past 37, so I honestly didn't know what we were into. When it comes to TDX, I tried to be blind as possible going into this so I could get the full experience on my own and see what I can manage throughout all of it. So this was a huge surprise. This time around, we decided to set up a defense over in the front and a little bit of a defense out in the back, and we managed to surpass wave 38. At this point, it was insane what was going on. From giant mech fights to battles in the sky, it was completely chaotic. The entire map started to feel small due to the rampant chaos everywhere, from explosions, huge hordes, and the overall brawls happening everywhere. However, something that I thought was odd is that a lot of this ended up draining down as we got further and further into the end of the mode. From the looks of it, it seemed like a lot of these fights and these really hype moments were going to keep on track, but that really wasn't the case at all. Once we actually did make it to the end, I will admit, the final boss has a cool design, but mechanically, the fight and the pacing or the flow of it kind of felt dull compared to everything beforehand. The huge explosions, really cool battles between mechs, all of that was pretty much gone at that point, and you just have a giant mechanical robot walking slowly towards your base. He has some cool gimmicks like the time freeze ability where he shoots out a bullet into your base, draining out its HP. Maybe it's just a me thing, but as a person who's going into it blind, like completely blind, it doesn't really connect with me at all. I don't know if it's lore-wise or anything of the sort, and then you get more hyped as you proceed, but it really did feel dull. It wasn't bad, I just thought it was going to be more monumental and exciting. Now in the end, we did end up winning and it was really awesome, and the experience overall has more or less shown me that there's a pretty large gap in the game. To elaborate on that, it comes down to progression, the towers you choose, and what you can make use of them with. The game kind of feels shallow, not in a bad way. It has a ton of fantastic features, but it kind of feels empty once you're at near the end of the road, pretty much. Now, I know that I am not close to the end of the road if you consider a 100% completion, like purchasing all the towers, getting all the crystals required for towers, and beating every single mode on the highest difficulty. If you like doing that in your sense of progression, that's great, but what I consider the end of the road is at least experiencing the entire game at its core. The journey thus far has been of a duo, me and my friend, and we were able to get pretty far with the main game modes. A lot of the events were really awesome and we did all of them, but once you're at the end there, it really just comes down to progression in the form of collecting. TDX is not the only tower defense with this issue, it just feels more prominent here given the lack of other things to do. You can run back a map in a game mode many a times, but the outcome kinda stays the same in that sense. Don't get me wrong, the quality is really awesome, from the soundtrack to all of the different models, the design, the mechanics, the uniqueness of all the fights that you get into, but at some point, it just feels like your adventure is over, you know? I still have a few more stories to tell, and I still am looking forward to updates in the game, but at the moment, I've kind of just given up progression. I'll talk about this a little bit more in an in-depth video regarding progression and the things I've noticed throughout this playthrough. So for now, I'll leave you with this. Nightmare mode is a really fun experience and I would recommend going into it blind if you can. Matchmaking is also a great option if you are struggling with it and are able to find other players who stick around. You will most definitely enjoy the experience and the challenging battles that you will have to encounter through the different waves and bosses that the game is going to throw your way. I honestly argue the hardest part of it all is the grind for crystals if you do want those crystal towers. Overall, I enjoyed this experience, but I probably won't be running it back myself unless I did it for fun with a friend or group. I simply don't see much of a need for progression in this sorts, nor do I want to run it back for how lengthy it is, but it's still a pretty good experience. That's going to be all for this video. It's a little bit more on the shorter side of things, but I hope you enjoyed. As mentioned, I got a few more stories of experiences that I've had with TDX, and I'll get to those pretty soon. That is going to be all for this video. If you want to check out the game, I would most definitely recommend it. The link will be down below in the description. And if you have any games that you want to recommend me, let me know with a comment down below. That's going to be all from me, and I will see ya.